Where legends breathe again. Eldmyth. The sky above ancient Greece was not a gentle blue, but a deep, untamed expanse of burning azure and searing white. From the peaks of Mount Olympus, shrouded in eternal mist and divine light, the world below seemed a fragile, beautiful plaything. And presiding over it all was a presence, a force of unimaginable power whose name was whispered by the wind, shouted by the thunder, and etched into the very soul of the Western world. That name was Zeus. But who was he truly? Was he merely a king, a distant figure on a marble throne? Or was he the very embodiment of the sky itself, the raw, untamed power of a storm given consciousness and will? For centuries, poets and priests, philosophers and peasants have sought to understand the ruler of the gods. His story is not one of a single being, but a tapestry woven from countless threads of cosmic rebellion, profound love, terrible vengeance, and the precarious order imposed upon a chaotic universe. To know Zeus is to delve into the heart of ancient belief, to walk the sacred groves where oracles spoke in his name, and to look up at a lightning-streaked sky with a sense of awe and primal fear. This is the story of how a god was born from chaos, how he forged a new world from the ashes of the old, and how his complex, often contradictory legacy continues to echo through the ages, a timeless testament to the power of myth itself. Our journey begins not in the light, but in the deepest, most primordial darkness. Before the ages were named, before the Titans, there was only chaos, a yawning, formless void. From this nothingness emerged the first deities: Gaia, the solid, life-giving earth, and Uranus, the starry, all-encompassing sky. Their union created the Titans, mighty beings who represented the colossal forces of nature. But Uranus was a fearful tyrant, imprisoning his own monstrous children, the Cyclopes and the Hecatoncheires, deep within the earth in the pit of Tartarus. The groans of the imprisoned caused Gaia immense pain, and she forged a great adamantine sickle, appealing to her children for a champion. Only the youngest Titan, Cronus, possessed the cunning and ambition to answer her call. He lay in wait, and when Uranus descended to embrace Gaia, Cronus struck, wielding the sickle and casting his father's power and his severed genitals into the sea. From that violent act, the world was reshaped. From the blood that fell upon the earth, the Aranais, spirits of vengeance, were born, and from the sea foam that mingled with the divine flesh, Aphrodite, the goddess of love, emerged radiantly. This act of patricide set a terrible precedent, a cycle of violence that would define the next generation. Having seized the throne, Cronus took his sister Rhea as his queen. Yet the curse of his father echoed in his mind. A prophecy foretold that he too would be overthrown by one of his own children. Consumed by paranoia, Cronus devised a horrific solution. As each of his children was born, Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon, he snatched them from their mother's arms and swallowed them whole, imprisoning them within his own divine belly. Rhea, grief-stricken and furious, could bear it no longer. When she was heavy with her sixth child, she sought the counsel of her parents, Gaia and Uranus. They guided her to a secret cave on the island of Crete, a place hidden from the all-seeing eyes of Cronus. Here, surrounded by the primal energies of the earth, Rhea prepared to bring her son, Zeus, into the world. The air in the cave was thick with the scent of damp soil and blooming myrtle, and the only sounds were the gentle drip of water and Rhea's labored breathing, a stark contrast to the opulent terror of Cronus's hall. This was a desperate gamble for the future, a mother's rebellion against a tyrant's fear. In the hidden Cretan cave, amidst the nurturing spirits, the Curetes, the infant Zeus was raised in secret. The myth tells us that he was nursed by the goat Amalthea, whose horn would later become the cornucopia, the endless horn of plenty. The Curetes, armed dancers, clashed their spears against their shields in a rhythmic, thunderous cacophony to mask the baby's cries from his ever-listening father. This childhood, far from the golden halls of power, was fundamental. It connected Zeus to the raw, earthy, and wild aspects of the world, not just the celestial. He grew in strength and wisdom, a god forged in secrecy and nurtured by primal forces. When he came of age, the time for hiding was over. Guided by Medes, the Titaness of wise counsel, Zeus devised a plan. He secured a position as his father's cupbearer, a role of intimate trust. Into Cronus's drink he mixed a powerful emetic, a potion crafted by Medes. The Titan king drank, and soon was overcome with violent, convulsive illness. One by one he disgorged the children he had swallowed years before, first the stone, then Hestia, Demeter, Hera, Hades, and Poseidon, emerging fully grown and burning with righteous fury. The siblings, united and freed, looked to their savior, Zeus, as their natural leader. The stage was set for a war that would shake the very foundations of the cosmos. The war that followed, the Titanomachy, was a conflict of a scale beyond human comprehension. It was not fought on a single battlefield, but across the entire breadth of the world. Zeus and his siblings, the newly freed Olympians, made their stronghold on Mount Olympus, while Cronus and the majority of the Titans rallied to Mount Othrys. For 10 years the war raged, a stalemate of unimaginable power. The earth quaked, the seas boiled, and the sky itself trembled. Zeus knew that to achieve victory he needed new allies. With immense courage he descended into the deepest, most terrifying pit of the underworld, Tartarus. There he freed the very monsters his grandfather had feared, the Cyclopes, master smiths, and the 100-handed hecatoncheires. Grateful for their freedom, the Cyclopes forged for the Olympians their iconic weapons. For Hades, a helmet of darkness that granted invisibility. For Poseidon, a mighty trident that could shake the earth and shatter continents. And for Zeus, the most formidable weapon of all, the thunderbolt. This was not mere lightning. It was the concentrated essence of divine authority, a raw, unbridled power that could scorch the heavens and cleave the mountains. Armed with this ultimate symbol of his reign, and aided by the 100-handed giants who could hurl 300 boulders at once, Zeus led the final, cataclysmic assault. Victory was absolute. The defeated Titans were cast down into Tartarus, imprisoned for eternity, guarded by the very hecatoncheires they once feared. The old order, the age of the Titans, was over. A new pantheon now ruled the cosmos. The three brothers, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades, drew lots to divide the world. Hades won the underworld, the silent realm of the dead. Poseidon took the vast, unpredictable seas. And Zeus, as the leader and wielder of the thunderbolt, claimed the sky and was acknowledged as the supreme ruler of gods and mortals alike, his throne on Mount Olympus the seat of all divine power. But sovereignty brought with it immense responsibility. The world was still a wild, chaotic place. Zeus's first task was not to command, but to create order from the remnants of conflict. He established the laws that governed the universe, the concepts of justice, hospitality, and oath-keeping. He appointed the Horai, the goddesses of the seasons, to regulate the turning of the year, and the Moirai, the fates, to spin the threads of mortal lives. His rule was meant to be one of wisdom and balance, a golden age where divine will provided structure for both nature and humanity. Yet, the king of the gods was also a being of immense passion and will, and his personal desires would often clash dramatically with his role as the guardian of cosmic order. The figure of Hera, Zeus's sister and wife, the queen of Olympus, is central to understanding his nature. Their marriage was sacred, a divine union that represented the stability of the sky and the earth, the foundational bond of the cosmos. Hera was a goddess of immense power, revered as the protector of marriage and women. Yet her myths are almost universally tales of a vengeful, jealous wife, and the reason for this lies squarely with Zeus. Despite his sacred vows, the king of the gods was perpetually unfaithful. His pursuits of mortal women and minor goddesses were relentless, a source of constant humiliation and rage for Hera. But to view these myths merely as soap operas of infidelity is to miss their deeper meaning. Each of Zeus's many liaisons and their extraordinary offspring represent the spreading of his divine influence, his arete or excellence, into every corner of the world. Through his children, he connected the Olympian power to arts, war, craftsmanship, and the very lineage of heroes. However, for Hera, each affair was a profound betrayal, not just of their marriage, but of the cosmic order he was sworn to uphold. Her subsequent persecution of Zeus's lovers and their children, from the heroic Heracles to the princess Io, was a terrifying manifestation of a power equal to his own, the power of justified, unrelenting fury. One of the most poignant examples of Hera's wrath and Zeus's cunning is the story of Io, a beautiful Argive princess and a priestess of Hera. Zeus fell in love with her, and to conceal his infidelity from his ever-watchful wife, he shrouded the world in a thick, dark cloud. But Hera was not fooled. Sensing the unnatural darkness, she descended from Olympus and swept the cloud away, only to find her husband standing next a perfectly ordinary and strikingly white heifer. Zeus, with swift improvisation, claimed he had just created the creature from the earth himself. Hera, feigning belief, praised the beautiful animal and asked for it as a gift. Trapped by his own lie, Zeus could not refuse. Hera immediately took possession of the heifer, the transformed Io, and placed her under the guard of Argus Panops, a giant with 100 eyes all over his body, who never slept with more than 2 eyes at a time. Io was trapped, unable to communicate her true form, driven to wander in a bovine shape. This was a masterstroke of cruel punishment from Hera, binding her husband's lover in a prison of flesh and perpetual surveillance. Unable to bear Io's suffering, Zeus summoned his son, the messenger god Hermes, the master of thieves and trickery. His command was simple: slay Argus and free Io. Hermes, disguised as a shepherd, descended to the grove where Argus kept his watch. He sat beside the giant and began to play enchanting, soothing melodies on his panpipes and told long, meandering stories. One by one, the 100 eyes of Argus began to grow heavy. Hermes' stories were so languid, his music so hypnotic, that he succeeded where force would have failed. He lulled all 100 eyes to sleep simultaneously. The moment the last eyelid closed, Hermes drew a sickle sword and with a single, swift stroke beheaded the giant. Io was free, but Hera's wrath was not so easily escaped. To honor her faithful though failed servant, Hera took the 100 eyes of Argus and placed them upon the tail feathers of her sacred bird, the peacock, creating its magnificent, watchful plumage for all eternity. Then, she sent a relentless gadfly to torment the transformed Io, stinging her without cease, driving her madly across the world from Greece, through Asia, and into Egypt. Driven to the brink of madness by the stinging gadfly, Io wandered for years, a symbol of innocent suffering caught in the crossfire of divine conflict. Her journey was one of pure agony, a never-ending flight across continents, through mountains and over seas. She finally reached the banks of the Nile River, exhausted, her spirit broken. Here, at the very edge of the known world, she collapsed, her bovine form kneeling in the mud, her pleas to the heavens finally moving Zeus to direct action. He approached Hera and with earnest entreaties swore that his passion for Io was over. He promised to never pursue her again. Appeased, or perhaps simply weary of the long punishment, Hera relented. Zeus gently touched the heifer and the bovine form melted away, restoring Io to her beautiful human self. In the land of Egypt, she would give birth to a son, Epaphus, a founder of nations, and through his line would eventually come the greatest of all heroes, Heracles. The story of Io is a testament to the resilience of the mortal spirit, but it is also a chilling lesson in the collateral damage of the god squabbles, where human lives become pawns in a celestial game of power and jealousy. Beyond his tumultuous relationships, Zeus's role as the enforcer of cosmic law was absolute. The concept of Xenia, the sacred bond between host and guest, was under his direct protection. To violate this law was to invite cataclysmic punishment, as the myth of Lycaon, the king of Arcadia, brutally demonstrates. Lycaon was a savage and impious man who doubted the divinity of the gods. When Zeus, disguised as a weary traveler, came to his palace to test the rumors of his wickedness, Lycaon, in an act of unspeakable sacrilege, decided to test whether his guest was truly a god. He slaughtered a hostage, cut him limb from limb, and served the flesh as a stew to Zeus. The king of the gods, recognizing the abomination, erupted in a fury that shook the mountains. He overturned the table, the gruesome meal scattering, and with a thunderous roar, he blasted Lycaon's palace to ashes. For his transgression against the most fundamental laws of gods and men, Zeus did not merely kill Lycaon, he transformed him, reflecting his savage inner nature into a wolf, a creature condemned to hunt and kill his own kind for all eternity. This was not just punishment, it was a divine statement. To act like a beast is to become one. Zeus was also the god of prophecy, the ultimate source of fate and knowledge. While other gods like Apollo served as the mouthpiece, the most ancient and revered oracle was at Dodona, dedicated to Zeus himself. Here, in a grove of ancient oak trees, the will of the god was interpreted through the rustling of the leaves, the cooing of sacred doves, and the clanging of bronze bells. Priests and priestesses, the Selai, who famously slept on the ground and never washed their feet, would listen to these natural sounds and decipher the messages from the king of the gods. This connected Zeus directly to the earth, to the primal, untamed wisdom of nature. It was a place of profound mystery, where kings and commoners alike would journey to seek guidance on war, marriage, and destiny. The oracle at Dodona reminds us that Zeus's authority was not only expressed in the violent, dramatic thunderbolt, but also in the subtle, whispering voice of the wind, a more nuanced and ancient form of communication that linked him to the oldest chthonic powers of the world he ruled. The greatest test of Zeus's wisdom and perhaps the most significant myth for humanity is the story of Prometheus. The Titan, whose name means forethought, was a champion of mankind. He tricked Zeus over the division of sacrificial meats, ensuring humans kept the best portions for themselves. But his greatest transgression was stealing fire from the hearth of the gods on Olympus and delivering it to humanity, hidden inside a fennel stalk. This was no simple gift of warmth. Fire represented technology, civilization, art, and knowledge, the very tools that would allow humanity to rise from their primitive state. Zeus was enraged. This act threatened the established order. It blurred the line between mortal and divine. His punishment for Prometheus was horrific and eternal, chaining the Titan to a rock in the Caucasus Mountains, where every day an eagle would descend to tear out his liver, which would regrow every night for the torment to begin anew. But Zeus's vengeance was not sated. To punish mankind for accepting the gift, he commanded the gods to create the first woman, Pandora. Endowed with beauty and gifts from all the gods but also a deceptive heart in a mysterious jar, she was sent to Epimetheus, Prometheus's foolish brother. When her curiosity overcame her and she opened the jar, she released all the evils that now plague humanity: sickness, toil, strife, and sorrow. Only hope remained inside, trapped under the lid. This complex myth shows Zeus as a severe, sometimes cruel, ruler, fiercely protective of the divine hierarchy, yet ultimately unable to stifle the potential he himself had allowed to flourish in the human race. The legacy of Zeus is not confined to dusty scrolls and ruined temples. He is woven into the very fabric of Western thought. In art, he is the majestic, bearded figure of Phidias's colossal statue at Olympia, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, a sight so awe-inspiring it was said to convert unbelievers. In literature, from the epic verses of Homer to the tragic plays of Aeschylus and Sophocles, he is the ultimate arbiter of destiny, the force that heroes must appease or defy. His Roman counterpart, Jupiter, carried his attributes into new empires, his name gracing the greatest temple in Rome and the largest planet in our solar system. In the Renaissance, artists like Michelangelo and Raphael depicted him in soaring frescoes, a symbol of divine power and classical learning reborn. Even today, his image is instantly recognizable, a shorthand for ultimate authority and mythological grandeur in films, video games, and literature. He represents our enduring fascination with the forces beyond our control, the storm, the sky, the inscrutable workings of fate. He is a complex mirror in which we see our own struggles with power, justice, desire, and responsibility. So who is Zeus? He is the child hidden in a cave, the liberator of his siblings, the thunder-wielding king who established order from chaos. He is the passionate, often unfaithful husband, the father of gods and heroes, the stern punisher of impiety, and the distant source of prophetic wisdom. He is a god of profound contradictions, embodying both the rational structure of cosmic law and the irrational, tempestuous power of nature and desire. To reduce him to a single archetype is to miss the essence of his enduring power. He is the sky itself, sometimes a clear, benevolent blue, offering light and life. At other times, a terrifying blackened vault, cracking with destructive fury. He reminds us that true power is never simple, that authority is fraught with compromise, and that the forces which create and sustain our world are the very same that can, in an instant, tear it all down. When we look up at a gathering storm, feeling that primal mix of awe and fear, we are, in a very real sense, participating in the oldest ritual of all, feeling the presence of the God who was, and in myth forever will be, the king. Another legend fades, but the next awaits. Like this video, subscribe and continue the journey through myths.